to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to rehearse that one. We're a little off key, but the words matter. So we have some minutes before us. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Probably not.
No, I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Ben, you are doing a great job on the minutes. We haven't had one correction yet. Okay. First item on the agenda. We have 3 proposed delegation bills, and we're going to get them started, see how far we can get with them, because we have Congressman Trone coming on at 9:30 and Senator Cardin at 10. I was not able to move them around, so we have to move around them, but I thought it was very important to hear from our federal partners, particularly now when so much of what we do is dependent upon what they do. So I thought we would take the bill first about the property tax, Frederick County property tax credit, new or expanding business. I had a lot of feedback on all 3 of the bills, and unfortunately, most of that was not until yesterday. The issue that was raised on the property tax credit bill was raised by the county. I hope there's someone from the county on. Yes, I see Joyce Schaefer. I know that county representatives were trying to reach out to Mayor Briggs because they were concerned that the authority for small business tax credits, vacant property tax credits, manufacturing tax credits already exist within the county. So if there's something that the municipalities want to do that the county is not doing already, it might make sense to change the language in the bill, and instead of saying against the county or municipal corporation, just say, strike out county and just say municipal corporation. But because of these late breaking developments, we're going to open this up for discussion before we take any motions. Senator Young.
Yes. The wording is kind of ambiguous. The town can't do anything with county taxes. So county should come out completely and just allow the town to grant a tax break on property taxes if they wish to. And it should be narrowed to that. I think they can actually already do it. My city attorney used to say, if the state law doesn't say you can't, you can. But a lot of municipalities like to have authority in law. So if we were to do this, it just give the town the right to do it. And just town taxes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So could we ask our legal counsel to address that issue? Municipalities grant tax credits that are not specifically stated in law.
That's something I'd have to look into, but I can definitely email you about. I'm not too familiar with like municipalities and tax credits.
Okay.
Delegate Pepe.
So maybe just some feedback. So we're just trying to ensure that a municipality can offer a credit to some sort of entity within the municipality only relating to municipal taxes, correct?
Yes,
So, okay, and the concern with their bill as written is that it might infer that they could give within a municipality a tax break on county taxes, and that's what the county is concerned about?
well, it does infer that, but it also gets into the county giving a county tax break, which they already have authority on tax breaks. So the county being mentioned in the bill isn't necessary at all.
Okay, so is it just, okay. So we want to figure out if we just want to strip the county, the word county out of there and just leave it to municipal and municipal taxes, et cetera?
Yeah. And as I said, I think they can do it anyhow, but a lot of municipalities, their attorney interprets it a different way and says, if it isn't in the law, we can't do it. So this would just put it in the law that they can if they wish to. And
I think the impetus for this bill was by a specific municipality. Are they on board with that? Is that what they want to do specifically? Is they want to just be able to, and maybe Delegate Cox can remember, because maybe you dealt with it last year, but they just want to give a credit with their own taxes, not with anyone else's taxes. Is that, as I understand it?
Delegate Cox, can you speak to that?
Yes, that is the intent of Emmitsburg. I know the mayor and the council there were some concerns with some of the Main Street businesses, particularly Emmitsburg's a little far north. Their Main Street could use a little bit of a boost, I think, and that was the intent. I know that they had not anticipated, from my discussions anyway, any larger tax cuts or credits. And this one is actually pretty narrow. It's looks like it's targeted only for a 10-year time period.
And do you know if they checked with their town town attorney to see whether or not they could already do it?
That was the discussion last year, if I recall correctly, because we had that come up, and I never, I don't recall the final decision or response on that. So I think this is intended for clarity.
It is intended for clarity because different town attorneys rule on it a different way. And this
Okay.
fight.
Okay, this is not a mandate. This is just authorization, right?
It's
It's
enabling.
enabling, yeah.
Okay, well then I would, I'll support it.
Is that a motion?
Ms. Schaefer, I got a email from the county executive very late yesterday with some concerns, but she didn't know if she could be on. Do you want to speak to it?
Yes, good morning. I'm happy to.
Okay.
So
Already debating bills.
I think you were given the impression last delegation meeting that county staff was alerted and were happy to or okay with administering the tax credit. And I just wanted to clarify that that wasn't the case. And we really haven't had time to look into what that would entail. And then we also just wanted to point out that there are other, we do think that, agree that the towns have this ability without this legislation, and that there are other, I don't know if the mayor has looked into the other tax credits available, but there's a variety of them. And just to name a few, there's small business tax, there's a vacant property tax credit. I don't know, I know he has a business that recently moved into a building that he thought, and they renovated, spent quite a bit of money. He thought maybe that they could qualify for this that you've got on the agenda today, but they might be able to qualify for vacant property tax credits. There's a manufacturing tax credit. There's many others that are available already. So,
Senator,
and I know she was concerned about the fact that it's lacking detail and who would qualify.
right.
But we're going to take the county out. We're taking the county out. This is only for
Or municipalities.
municipalities. That's what our discussion is.
I understand. I just think we also need to, so we do a lot of the administrative work our municipalities in terms of processing their tax bills, et cetera. So I think he was counting on the fact that this would not take, he would be able to count on county infrastructure to be able to do some of this.
Okay.
We just haven't had that discussion with him, and we haven't had this discussion. Our staff hasn't taken a look at what that would entail. So just to let you know that.
Senator Huff.
Yeah, I apologize. I was running a little late. Yeah, I talked, Mayor Briggs called me yesterday and he said he talked to the county and that basically they needed some more time to maybe work it out or do something else. So if we could, I think we could just table it for this week. Would be my suggestion.
Okay, today is the last day to drop bills on the House side.
I understand.
Okay, thank you. But
If
the
that's a
Senate
motion-
always,
if
the
that-
Senate always has more flexibility. Sorry, Senator Young.
If that was a motion to table, I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? I think Delegate Cox, are you in favor?
No, because I think that any concerns can be weeded out. I mean, we could always amend the bill. I don't think it needs to be tabled.
Okay, so that was not unanimous, Ben, if you're taking notes on the vote. Okay, Senator Huff, I just wanted to mention to you, since Congressman Trone is coming in at 9:30 and we couldn't change that around, we decided to try to go through as much of the bills as we could. And then after we speak with the congressman and the senator, we'd come back and finish up. So the next bill is the Board of Education bill. And I believe we have Mr. Vogt here who put in an amendment that would clarify the last conversation we had where there was a lot of ambiguity. Mr. Vogt, would you like to explain what the problem was and how your motion addresses it?
Sure. Thank you. So yeah, in the last delegation meeting, there was the main concern, as I understood it, was having 2 members in 1 vacancy. And the way we did that, we resolved that was making it more clear in D4 of the Board of Education vacancies bill. In D4, we left citations to the paragraphs in D2 and 3 so that it was clear which elections would be applying for which vacancies, which type of vacancies. We removed in D2, you'll see it was if a successor, until a successor is appointed, we changed that to elected, elected in accordance with paragraph 4I of this subsection and qualifies. So that way that we don't have the issue about an appointment when it's really should be an elected official filling the vacancy after the full term is complete for following the appointment by the county executive in D2. So yeah, and then in addition to that, we made some clarifying changes just so that it would be more clear for the reader. Yeah.
I'm less clear than I was before.
Okay.
Are we saying now that if somebody leaves, the candidate with the next highest votes could serve up to 4 years?
And which provision are you referring to?
D4-1.
Okay. So D4I is
Or I, okay.
Yeah, D4I is if that election is when you have the vacancy for a full term, and then you have so the candidate with the highest vote totals, they filled vacancies for a full term. That's how that's supposed to work.
I don't like that. I liked what was there better before.
So that wasn't changed. 4I was
Before, before I read that they would fill it until the next election. Or at least I thought I did.
So is that in D2? Is that what you're referring to, or in D3? I mean, I can go over the D2 and D3. I just, yeah, however you think.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of somebody that didn't win serving a full 4-year term because they came in next. I mean, if the governor dies,
Mhm.
lieutenant governor becomes president, not the next highest candidate. I
Okay.
don't know any other election where somebody that didn't win automatically gets a full term.
Well, yeah, that's not intended to be the case. I don't. We have if there's in D2, we have if there's a vacancy that occurs 30 days or less before the candidate registration deadline, the county executive appoints an individual to fill the vacancy. And so then that vacancy is for a shorter period.
Full term of 4 years.
And then there's an election in accordance with D4I, because in D2, it's for the remainder of that term, which is supposed to be a short period, 30 days or less before the candidate registration deadline. And so they're filling that term until a successor is elected, which we changed. And the election that we're referring to is an election for the full term, which is provided in 4I.
Okay. Candidates.
Delegate Pippy had a question or comment.
Yeah, I thought that the conversation we had at the last delegation meeting was that the two bills needed to be identical verbatim because the delegation voted out the last one. So, I mean, if there's any changes, you know, I kind of
We
throws a
didn't
wrench.
vote it. We didn't
Huh?
vote it out. We didn't.
No, I mean,
vote
last
this.
year.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes.
yeah, the bills were a straight reintroduction last year, but it was in the review, as was discussed in the last delegation meeting, the issue was having 2 vacancies for 1 seat. And that was resolved by in D2 switching it from appointed to elected. So that was, I guess, an error that was made in drafting by the drafter. So that was something that did need to be changed and that we did change. And then I think there was just and then in addition to that, it's mostly the same language, is just clarified. So there weren't like many substantive changes, just fixing that one problematic issue with appointed to elected in D2.
I mean, I don't even have the bill in front of me. That's why I'd vote for it if it was the same one from last year. But if you guys have changed the language, then I'm not going to. I mean, I'd like to see it before I vote for it. Kind of a last minute deal here. But
Yeah, we didn't even get the amendment language until late last night. And it's not the final amendment. It's actually the request. Didn't make sense to me at 10 o'clock last night. And it sounds like it's not resonating even this morning with several people.
The amendment was finalized today, this morning.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that anybody's gotten to it. If Delegate Krim, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
I was just saying, no, I haven't reviewed it either.
Yeah.
If we're talking about final language, so.
Yeah. I had an email from you at 8 o'clock this morning, but I haven't had a chance to look at it. And my guess is that's true for the rest of the delegation.
Yeah, one of the things confusing me is this has amended language that is already present language. if you're amending something, you only put the new stuff in bold. You don't put in bold what already is. And so I'm wondering if it's changing something and I'm missing it. I mean, this isn't how a bill is usually changed.
This is the reprint, maybe? I'm not sure if you're referring to the reprint.
Well,
Jan?
no, I'm reading the bill and in bold language is what the changes usually are. You don't put existing language in bold print. And so
Right.
I'm seeing the candidates with the highest vote totals shall fill any vacant positions for a full term of 4 years. Well, that's the way it is now. But that is in bold followed by other bold, which is indicating you change something. You don't generally put existing law in bold. You only put amendments in bold.
Yeah, I think the D2 was the repealed existing law in brackets there.
Can I speak, Madam Chair?
Sure.
If there are several of us that do not intend to vote on this today because we haven't reviewed it, I would suggest that we postpone our discussion at least until we review. If there's not 5 votes to pass, then we should just move on.
Was that a motion?
I would second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that was unanimous. Okay, we're moving much quicker than I thought we would be. Okay, final bill under consideration today is gaming, sports, and event wagering licensing. I think this is another bill that we need to continue discussion on because of some state level bills. Anyone want to start that conversation?
I can start, Madam Chair. On February 2nd, the speaker dropped the bill that is entitled Gaming Regulation of Fantasy Gaming Competitions and Implementation of Sports Wagering. This bill is 34 pages long, and it's mostly all new language in statute. So I don't think we can consider anything related to sports wagering. I have tried to read through this bill seriously, and there are some things that I do not understand yet because I'm not an expert, not on Ways and Means, but they will be having their hearing within the next couple weeks. But there's a whole process in here for getting a license for sports wagering. So
Could you, sorry to interrupt, could you share the bill number so the members
Sure.
of the delegation could look it up?
it's House Bill 940. So it's on the website. You're able to review it. So I think we're really putting the cart before the horse at this point, and I'm not willing to go that route right now. I have no idea what the implications of this bill are, but I do know there's a process in here for getting a sports wagering license. There's minority business interests that need to be considered when they get a license. There's a whole background check involved. It's very intricate. So I will start that.
Any other comments? Delegate Kerr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I read the bill quickly yesterday, and I see that there are 5 additional licenses for brick and mortar. And as Delegate Krim said, that there are preferences given to minority and women-owned businesses. And then there are 10 licenses for mobile apps, which doesn't apply to what Long Shots is attempting to do. But I think until we hear the debate on the bill, it may be inappropriate to try and set aside a license for an individual business. That may be counterproductive at this point.
Thank you. Anyone else? Senator Young.
Yeah, my concern too is I know that there's at least one other Frederick place that's going to, I think, apply, at least they indicated they were. Maybe others. And again, without knowing the rules and guidelines, I don't want to pick a winner at this point, and I'm not sure if we get to pick the winner anyhow. If they have guidelines on how they're going to be selected, I think whoever it is has to follow those guidelines. I think if you actually want to give it, I don't know how many sports betting parlors there are, horse betting ones like this one, but I think if you wanted them covered, or if somebody wants them covered, the best thing to do would try to get it in the original bill that they automatically get it, and then deal with the rest of them. Otherwise, I just think, it's too soon for us to make a choice.
I'll follow up on that and say that there is a sports wagering application review.
With all due respect, I've had my hand up the whole time.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see
I've
it.
had the little cartoon up. I had my
Oh, okay.
hands going.
All right, then let's give Senator Huff. Sorry,
you.
my fault, I didn't see it.
Thank you. All right. So, look, I want to vote on this today. People know where they're at on it. This is the only game in town, literally. Nobody else has off-track betting. No one else is they're the only license. I think almost all of us wrote a letter of support for them. There's no other off-track betting in Frederick County. The only places that are going to get this are the casinos, off-track betting. And if we don't get in and have it for off-track betting, all that revenue from Frederick County is going to keep going out of state. It's going to go to Gettysburg. It's going to go to Charlestown, everywhere else. If somebody else has a different idea of where it can go, they can offer it. And look, if they want to amend it on this bill, fine, but this bill has to pass in conjunction with the other bills or has to be amended on. If we don't even support it for our own off-track betting facility in Frederick County, ain't nobody else in the state going to support Frederick County having it at our off-track. So, and in that case, all that revenue and all that tax dollars is going for schools and for the kids and everything else is just going to keep floating right out of state. So I'm going to make a favorable on this. I see Delegate Pippy has his hand up.
Delegate Pippy.
Well, I think similar to the drinks to go, we put in a local bill, knowing that a statewide bill was being put in. And we did it because, to send a message. I think it offers an opportunity to negotiate. We're not the only ones doing it. Baltimore County has put in a local bill that's verbatim identical to this bill. From what I understand, the applicant is a minority-owned business. It's not even in my district. I think it's District 3. But, we're just kind of saying, like, look, if there's an opportunity for a small business in our county to expand, we want to be at the table. And I think a lot of things have to happen for that to be successful, but I don't really see the harm in putting it in. I really don't. They'll know that it's in, they'll know that we have an applicant looking for it. And if there's an opportunity to kind of like be at the table, I think as a delegation, we should take it. Like I said, I don't see what the harm in at least trying, quite frankly, so.
I will.
I have a question for you, Delegate Krim. Did you say this is the speaker's bill?
It is the speaker's bill.
Okay.
I don't know if the Senate president has a bill also. A lot of times that's how these things go, but all I know is the speaker's bill. And there's a commission set up for awarding the licenses. There's pages of processes that need to go through. I don't know whether this business meets the minority business requirements that are in the bill. I just, and we all know how that goes. When new policy, a new process comes in, there's going to be amendments to this bill. So we don't know how this is going to look when it comes out of the legislature. That's part of the sausage making, as they say. But I do know right now that this bill sets up a process, and the final bill will set up a process. I have told Mr. Cohen that I do not oppose him getting a license. I do not oppose that at all. But with that said, we have to consider how that bill fits into, and I don't know whether our legal counsel will be able to tell us that today, how the bill that Senator House has brought forward fits into a bill like House Bill 940. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's up to us whether or not he gets a license. I don't think it is. I think it's up to the commission that's going to be set. If he wants a license, he can apply, just like everybody else is going to apply for the license. So we're not preventing him from doing that. There will be a process. He can apply. Anybody can write a letter to the commission in support of his application. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes, Delegate.
did Senator Huff make a motion? All right, I'll second the motion to approve as a delegation bill.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. There's a second. Everyone in favor of this?
No, there's
Had my
hands up.
Oh, yes,
too.
you did. Delegate Cox.
I just wanted to weigh in on this, just to echo what the senator said, that this is not, something that is supposed to somehow show anything except one point, and that is that we as a delegation stand for our local people having this opportunity. And this is a business that has the opportunity. If we don't demonstrate that kind of support for our own businesses, then I think, that can get lost in the state discussion. So I would have seconded the motion, but that I just wanted to make that this isn't something that we have to iron out completely today. And I hear everyone talking about, there might be other issues, but no, this is about making Frederick County's voice known that we care about our businesses and that the tax revenue should really be local.
Delegate Kerr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 3 of these standalone OTBs in the state. The others are attached to racetracks and casinos. And it would be completely appropriate for all of those to be included as the sports betting locations. This business is in my district. I want it to stay in my district. I want it to get a license. I just don't know that this is the best way to go about that. If the other delegates think that this will be more help than harm, then I'm willing to go along with it. I just don't want to hurt our chances to get this by putting an amendment on the speaker's bill that may not be seen as welcome.
Okay. Senator Young.
Yeah, I would support a motion that we ask that all facilities like this in the state be included, because then it's a general thing and betting is going on there already. And I think it would fit in. And I think that if we want it, that's the proper way to do it. I don't want to vote on a single local one when I know there is going to be at least one other. And I don't know if there might be more, because I don't think most people even know about the main bill and what the rules are. So I don't want to pick one out at this point. I don't have any problem with him getting it, but I'd like to see him get it under a unified rule or under the circumstances that other people get the opportunity to compete for. Because if we just pick this one, we're excluding anybody else in Frederick County that might apply for it. And I know there is going to be one other application. I don't know that theirs will hold up, but I don't want to make a choice when no one else has had the opportunity to join in and say, approve me too.
Okay.
can I just add one more thing? I'm sorry, Madam
Yeah.
Chair. We could, I listening to Senator Young here, we could offer an amendment that the off-track betting places be given some kind of, I don't want to say special treatment, but at least get maybe consideration, because as what he says, there already doing it. We could do something like that. So, and that's all I wanted to say.
Senator Huff.
I'll just respond. That's a statewide, and this is front of the delegation because of the local. If the casinos have it their way, they'll be the only ones that have it. Even getting the all-track betting facilities in there is going to be tough. To think we're going to add a bunch of other facilities, I don't see it. This is our only shot. And if Frederick County doesn't stand up for the one off-track betting, the odds are we'll get nothing. So I don't want to see that. And then look, if we're not willing to fight for the one OTB we have in there, no one else is. The idea that the speaker who's from Baltimore County or delegates from Prince George's County or other areas where they have casinos are going to stand up to fight for one OTB in Frederick County ain't going to happen. And by the way, it's not just one person. This OTB has been around. It's going to change. It could change. It used to be the Crack Claw out there, and they went under. They went out of business. They couldn't survive anymore as an OTB. He's trying to get this going there at Holiday Inn. They've got the license. They're already dealing with gaming. I think that if nothing else, this is a statement that we support. It doesn't mean we exclude others, but it means it's a statement that we support them getting it. If not, we will lose that revenue that will come in business, generate jobs, businesses, tax revenue to help our community. Otherwise, it's just going to go out of state. If we don't fight for our local businesses, we cannot think that others are going to in the state. So I would press my motion.
We have two choices now. We can take a vote on your motion, or we can postpone the conversation for 1 week while we answer some of the questions that have been raised. We just saw this bill for the first time last week. We just became aware that the speaker has a bill within the past, 12 hours, 3 hours, something like that. Some of us have some concerns about bypassing or end running the speaker's bill that we might want to address. So those are the two routes we can go. Do you want to press your motion, or do you want?
I press my motion.
Okay, then we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
let's. Okay, I want to count hands. Cox, I saw. Pippi, I saw. Huff, I saw. Kerr, I saw. I'm seeing 4. So Bertie, your pen is up.
Correct. That's a yes.
That's a yes. So there's 5. Okay, the motion passes. Okay, let me see. Then is there an amendment on this? Do we want to discuss that today? Do we want to put that in later?
There's nothing in front of us. It's passed.
Okay.
So we're done.
And you have the bill. I don't have the House version.
I have the House version, and it'll be dropped today, and then with the delegation letter, you can convert it to a Frederick County bill.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I see that we have 2 representatives from Congressman Trone's office on, but I don't know if we have Congressman Trone. The last I heard, he was on the floor and he was in line to speak. So let's check. Reagan or Sonny, one of the 2 of you, I'm going to ask Ben to take your microphone off and you can give us status.
Delegate Lewis-Young, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, this is Sonny. First of all, delegation, thank you very much for your patience. I appreciate it. The congressman is caught up. He is supposed to speak at 9 o'clock on an amendment he has to an apprenticeship bill. Obviously, as you guys understand, your legislators, things get delayed a little bit when you're sitting in line on a floor. We're hoping he's going to be back. The congressman actually just texted me and extended his apologies to you guys. He asked if you just go ahead along with your business right here. He's going to jump in as soon as he's walking off the floor. We're ready to dial him in as soon on his pace out. So I apologize, but give us another 5 or 10 minutes. We're hoping we can get him on with you guys ASAP.
Okay, we have a logistical consideration because we have Senator Cardin coming on. I believe, no, not Carden. Yeah, Carden. Ben, is he coming on at 9:15? Or
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Okay. I don't have any other business on our agenda, but let me give you a quick update of next week's meeting. Delegate Krim had requested that Dr. Albin come on and give us an update on the hybrid opening of schools. I invited her to the meeting today. She was unable to come because there had already been a strategic planning session of the Board of Education planned. She is coming on next week. Also, Rick Weldon is coordinating a presentation on the business community, in particular, some of the challenges that they're facing during the pandemic. Rick, if you are still on, we could unmute you and you can just tell us who's on your panel that will be presenting.
Thank you. We meet, a group of 5 of us meet every Thursday and have since the beginning of the pandemic. We call ourselves the Bagel Group. It is Helen Profiter, the Director of Economic Development for the county, Richard Griffin, the Director of Economic Development for the city, Karen Norman of the Downtown Frederick Partnership, John Fiesler from Visit Frederick, and I. And we, throughout this thing, have been trying to coordinate the federal grant programs and loan programs, the state support programs, the county and the local support programs, so that our business community can best position to take advantage of them. 5 of us will give you a 10-minute presentation next week. 5 slides. Each of us will present 1 slide and then be open to any questions from the delegation.
Thanks very much. So, given those 2 presentations and we have no other legislation to vote on, probably next week will be our last meeting. Now, with that said, if we feel it's necessary to do updates, whether it be on vaccine distribution, school opening, or any other pressing topic, we will call a special meeting. But unless anyone has an objection, next week will be our last official meeting. Congressman Raskin had wanted to speak to us as well. Unfortunately, he was not able to work within the time frame prior to February 12th. But if we see we need to call another special meeting later in the session for those topics I mentioned, we'll try to work him in then. Anybody have any comments on that plan? Okay, let's get an update on the status. I see Robin Summerfield is in, and we have 2 representatives from Congressman Trone's office. So at this point, it's whoever gets here first, or if we don't see that either of them will be available in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to recommend we take a break and come back. Anyone from those 3 people I mentioned, Reagan, Sonny, Robin, want to give us an update on status?
As far as I know, Ben is on schedule to be here at 10. I'm going to let him know that the congressman's a little delayed, so he can be aware of that. If he can jump on early, we'll get him to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate you working with us. This is Sonny again. First of all, can you hear me again?
We can hear you.
Good, great. I just want to make sure I wasn't muted. I actually just got an update. The finally yielded to him. He's up at the mic right now. So give us a couple seconds here, and hopefully we can dial him in right there. So forgive me for the delays, but hopefully we can get him on in a second.
Okay. Given that the timing looks fairly close, I'm not going to recommend that we go away and come back, but what I will recommend is that you keep your screens up and you go check your email or do whatever you have to do, and we come back as essentially, we are live, but we'll proceed once the congressman joins us. Ben, if you're still on, and I mean Ben Vogt, not Ben Reese. If you haven't run those amendments by Steve McKay, would you do that, please? Because he was the original author of this bill. Or lead sponsor, I should say.
Hi, Delegate. I caught the, I was on the phone with the Ben in your office. So I just caught the end of that, if you don't mind, like.
Yeah, I just got a text from Joy Schaefer as I told everyone, go check your mail. And she suggested, if you haven't already, to run it by Steve McKay, because he's the original sponsor of the bill. And I got another text from Joy. Jen Gardner is on and has volunteered to do a quick COVID update until we can bring the congressman on. Thank you. County Executive Gardner, you are on.
Good morning, everybody. I've been on here for a little while. I was a little late getting on, but thank you for giving me an opportunity here to talk to you. I can certainly answer any questions you have about the vaccination process. We did, for the first time, open our third clinic, which was at the community college in their gym on Wednesday. So we had 3 clinics operating at the same time, 2 for first-time doses, 1 for second doses, and that day went very well. So we did over 1,100 vaccinations at the FCC location in one day. And so that went very well. And that was 75 and older, which tends to move through the line a bit slower than some of our other age groups. I also want to let you know that out of the educator group, which includes Frederick County Public Schools, but also private schools and childcare and higher education, the community college, we did about 500 vaccinations last Saturday and 400 on, I think it was Tuesday of this week. And so it might have been Wednesday. And so we are making some progress there, even though we're only minimally required to do 100 teachers a week, but we try to run a whole clinic to do a bigger number. So we're making progress with our vaccinations. Obviously, the issue is lack of vaccine, and we don't have an understanding of what is happening at the in the private sector in terms of giant foods, their pharmacy distributing vaccine. We know CVS may come online next week. February 11th is when I've been told they will start, but we don't really know how much they're getting. Universally, county officials are interested in having the orders from the health department filled first. The health departments have done a better job getting out vaccine, followed by the hospitals, and then the private sector partners have been slower. And of course, that may be in part because they're newer to the process, but we do think the health departments are most interested in fairness, equity, and in getting the vaccine out.
Okay.
So, you know, Dr. Brookmeyer or Heidi Keeney could really tell you more about the day-to-day operation, but we're interested in that.
Okay, I'm going to ask that we return to this topic later because Congressman Trone has joined us.
That's fine. Thank you.
Pippi, I will get back to you as soon as we finish with the congressman. Welcome, Congressman Trone. Tell us
hey guys, great to be here. Thank you. A little busy, a little crazy, but I apologize. I was on the floor. I'm just off the floor now, We have a bill we're putting together today on apprenticeships, and I had an amendment to help those that have been incarcerated get the help so they can get job training, so they can actually get a job and pay taxes and not go back to jail. So it ran late, and I apologize. I ran off the floor. So thank you. I quickly want to just run through a couple things we're working on. Biggest thing is, as Karen's been talking about, is vaccine. Everything we talk about every day now is vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Clearly, the rollout has been unacceptable. You're having one of the slowest in the country. It's not what Maryland is. Also, we're not reaching those most vulnerable, and certainly our low-income communities and communities of color are suffering as far as vaccine distribution. As you may know, the federal delegation and myself spoke to Hogan's team about this. We're pushing them to develop a faster, more equitable system to get these vaccines out. I mean, we're going to have 3.5 million vaccines now a week being produced in the country. That's going to go to 7 million soon. So we need a system and a capacity and supply chain to move this. It's a business problem, and they had 6 months to prepare for it. It's unacceptable that they weren't prepared to execute this because lives are at stake. We've been talking to all the health department folks. We've already spoken the last couple of days to Washington, Allegheny, Garrett, and we have a call with Barbara in your health department coming up very shortly. We just need, the root word clearly is transparency and communication. You know, the health departments can't find about something that's happening when they hear the news conference. It's unacceptable. Second piece is committees. This year, I was fortunate to get bumped up in a big way to the House Appropriations Committee, which I think is the most important committee in the House. We control the purse strings. I'm also going to be on the Veterans Affairs Committee because I can do a lot of work there on addiction and mental health with our vets, and the Joint Economic Committee again. On the Appropriations Committee, I've asked and was accepted on the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Subcommittee. So this should be helpful as we work on 270 and Route 15. We're going to have a big infrastructure package with President Biden, and we've got to make sure our stuff gets its fair share. The other subcommittee is Commerce, Justice, and Science. That's going to help us use SAMRID over at Fort Detrick, protecting those jobs that they tried to take away. And myself and Ben and Chris got deeply involved, to say the least, up to my armpits when they went after our jobs there. And now they realize with COVID how stupid a decision that was. Third committee is Military Construction, Veterans Affairs. Again, you know, we have 42,000 vets in our district, and Fort Detrick, number one employer, obviously. So I think there'll be a lot of opportunities there on military construction, helping Fort Detrick. So we're going to keep leveraging those positions, and funding for the state and local government also is key in this next bill. So $350 billion for state and local, that has to happen. We were on the phone with President Biden earlier this week, and he's crystal clear that this is not something we can negotiate out. So we've got to get this to state and local governments. End of story. The other thing I've been working on, I spoke to the speaker for 15 minutes directly one-on-one on Tuesday on mental health and substance use disorder, something, Karen, you folks have fought hard with us on this together. And we put a request in the leadership for $10 billion in this package for direct relief on both overdoses, opioids, and mental health, which we're seeing just really, really moving in a bad direction. So Governor Hogan's COVID relief plan certainly falls short. I support the tapping in a big way to the rainy day fund. You know, it's not just raining, it's pouring. We just had a blizzard. COVID is a blizzard, and we've got to tap into this. I mean, down the road, we can figure out how to refill it, but, you know, we got to help people now. You know, we got to help small business, colleges, and working families. So mental health addiction, that's our big focus for 117th. We just put together our Family Support Services Act, bipartisan. That's going to move through both houses. I have bipartisan both houses. It got through the House last year. Senate wouldn't hear it. We just put on our Preventing Mental Health and Substance Use During Crisis Emergency Act. It's bipartisan. We have Senate sponsors bipartisan. We're going to get that through both houses. Then the third act we just put in was Effective Drug Control Act, helping ONDCP track, review all the federally funded drug demand. They don't have an organized way to look at this. They look at it just scattershot. You got to look at it like a business and thoughtfully. We're also in criminal justice going to reintroduce with Maxine Waters our ban the box, which I think is crucial on unemployment applications. Transportation, being on that subcommittee is going to be a real good spot to work on this big infrastructure bill. We've got to get the broadband piece. We've been hammering Biden on that $100 billion on broadband. If we look at what happens in Thurmont and Upper Frederick and certainly to the west, we've got broadband problems everywhere. And education with Ben Cardin, we introduced again the True Equity Act. That's going to help cover a good portion and be helpful to the plan we have for Blueprint for Maryland's education future. So bottom line, those are some of the things we're working on. I wish we could be in person, but we're Team Maryland, and you've got to all work together. I say it every time: local, state, federal. We all got the same customers. We got to be on the same team. And again, I request any problems you've got that you can't get solved, whether it's federal or even in Annapolis, we're happy to go to bat for you always. Your problems are my problems, and give me the problems and let me go to bat with me and my team, no matter what it is. So thank you.
Thank you. And we get excellent feedback on the responsiveness of your staff for constituent service issues. So I thank you for that. We have just a few more minutes before Senator Cardin comes on. Does anyone have any questions for Congressman Trone?
Chairman, I just have a quick one. I see Rick Weldon's on here, who's a fellow Brunswickian from our chamber. So just Congressman, I would love to, Senator Huff, I'd love to extend the invitation sometime to you if you'd like to. Our districts barely overlap, but the little town I live in, Brunswick, is one of the overlaps. So we'd love to have you come down, and there's a lot of infrastructure challenges, and we'd love to see how we could work together, set up a meeting one day with the city and you. So
I'd be happy to do that. As you know, I've been a Chamber of Commerce member for my entire life, Rotarian. So I'm totally get the business piece. The infrastructure is long-term thinking. If we don't invest long-term, we're not going to build back the country we need. And infrastructure is a part of it. So we need that feedback, especially now that I'm on appropriations in the transportation subcommittee, that we're going to have direct jurisdiction on that and build with Biden this infrastructure plan. So let's set that up as sooner versus later, because I want to get your input, because we got the budget full speed right now for the 2021 budget. We've got to put it to bed by June 1. So we're moving. Anything else?
Great. Well, I'll reach out to Sonny, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Delighted. Thank you.
Thanks. Delegate Krim has her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Congressman, regarding the transportation infrastructure, will there be an opportunity for you to do specific projects in that bill?
It does look like that will happen. We're working with the earmarks piece, and it's not really called earmarks. It'll be federally directed funding. And so we are looking for specific projects. Everybody's putting in different requests, and then they're funneling them through the Appropriations Committee. So every congressperson gets 10 requests that they're able to put into the appropriations group. That all comes to us, and then we funnel those out. And some of those will be in language of to prioritize with the agencies what needs to be done. So, Carol, if you've got some specific stuff, set up a call with myself, Sonny, whoever. And, Christina, my legislative director, I want to mention, we lost her. She was spectacular. But she was too damn good, and the Biden administration poached her. So we just hired a new legislative director. We'll introduce her, Faye, to all of you. But it was a big loss for Christina, but I'm really proud for her because this is a big job she got with Biden, and she was the best.
Okay, Congressman Trone, I will tell you the project locally is the expansion of Route 15 through the city. So all of the delegation supports that. That's the top priority for Frederick County. So if you have an opportunity to put that line item in the transportation infrastructure bill, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're totally supplied on 15. Some of you may know I grew up in Adams County, Pennsylvania. I still have a home there. I go with my kids on the weekends once in a while in the summer, and I take Route 15 every single time. I've taken up through Harrisburg a million times where I built my first store. I know the road well. So thank you. We'll definitely have that on our list.
Thank you very much, Congressman Trone. I see that Senator Cardin has joined us. Congressman Trone, you're welcome to stay, but we are going to transition now because I know you all have very tight schedules to Senator Cardin.
Well,
That's
Karen,
great. Thanks, guys.
Karen, thank you very much. David, good work. It's good hearing from you.
Thanks, Senator.
Karen, thanks for this opportunity. I regret normally I would, be in Annapolis and we could talk in person, but that's not possible with COVID-19. So I thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to come by just to let you know our whole team is available to help. I know that Robin Somerville is on the call. I see his name. He does an incredible job representing me in the western part of our state, and I thank him for his dedicated service. I think Carlton Atkinson will probably be joining us. I just got off another Zoom call with him, who's my state director. This is Team Maryland. We work very closely with David Trone and with Chris Van Hollen and the other members of our congressional delegation. Let me just make a couple brief comments, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. I was on the floor of the United States Senate on January the 6th. So I was there when the rioters were knocking on our doors, and we were in harm's way. And there was a real concern about our personal safety. And I thank so many Marylanders who contacted our office concerned about our personal safety, and I thank them for their concerns. But I tell you, I was more concerned about the safety of our democracy than I was my own personal safety. I never thought I would see an insurrection in the United States in my lifetime. It was a frightening experience, and it shows how fragile our democratic institutions can become. 2 weeks later to the day, at the same location in the US Capitol, on the West Front, where the rioters had taken over, I was there representing all of you, the state of Maryland, as Joe Biden took the oath of office as president and Kamala Harris took the oath of office as vice president. I was there with Democrats and Republicans, and I was very proud to see so many of my colleagues that wanted to participate in this event to show the people of America and around the world about the peaceful transition of power in America. It was a day to celebrate. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have put forward a pretty aggressive game plan for this country. So let me just tell you briefly where I think the priorities are going to be, because they do tie in to your question about Route 15. Let me show you how. First and foremost, they want to get COVID-19 under control. And they have a game plan to do that. It's going to be additional resources to make sure we have adequate vaccines and an adequate distribution system and a fair distribution system. It will be a commitment that we can open up our schools safely and keep our schools open safely. It will target relief to those families that need the help because of COVID-19 and the businesses that need the help under COVID-19. I'm part of that effort. In this Congress, I am now chairing the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee as a result of the Senate now being controlled by Democrats. And we are crafting another round of help. In addition to the PPP program and the second round of PPP program and the EIDL loan program and the EIDL advance program, we're now looking at, we also have a shuttered venue program. We're going to have a restaurant program. We're going to try to tailor the relief. Frederick, to me, very much, its economic energy is with the small businesses that are located in Frederick. And I love coming into Frederick and walking down the streets and going into the shops. It's been a challenge during COVID-19, and we really need to pay attention to that issue. The other part that relates to the Route 15 is the Build Back Better. We'll get to that legislation very shortly. At 5:45 this morning, the United States Senate passed the president's $1.9 trillion blueprint. We didn't pass the actual bill, but we passed the budget that allows us to pass that bill. We had 15 hours of debate, continuous debate with continuous voting as part of what we call the vote-a-rama on the budget. But at the end of the day, we were able to pass that budget with Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote. So we're on our path to provide additional help, and it includes state and local government, direct help to Frederick County, to the state of Maryland. It includes extension of unemployment benefits. It includes direct aid to your school systems to deal with getting the schools open safely. It includes another $1,400 payment to those families whose incomes are below $75,000 or $150,000. It includes the help targeted to businesses that need additional support. It helps renters who are in desperate need, in danger of foreclosure. So it includes nutrition programs, including the SNAP benefits, and including the school nutrition programs. So it's a comprehensive bill to try to get us out of this pandemic. When we passed the previous bills, we thought this pandemic would be gone by now, but it's not. And it's going to be with us for several more months, at least, before our economy can start to rebound the way it needs to. So we needed to move that forward. But we're going to take up another bill, and it'll be a few months from now, a Build Back Better, an infrastructure bill that will help us create the jobs we need and modernize our society. And in that respect, I think we can take up some of the issues that you're talking about. I do want to mention a couple specific issues. Fort Detrick, believe me, we are laser focused on that. We were able to get the funding for the labs, even though, as you remember, they had the problem with the sterilization facilities. So we think we had that on the right path moving forward. We think the labs are now fairly funded. COVID-19, by the way, helped us get those labs funded because they recognize that these pandemics are going to be with us. So we are working on the federal installations facilities. We passed a full year federal appropriation bill, so the federal partnership is now stable through September 30th of this year. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening in this Congress. I think it's going to be a pretty active Congress. And stay tuned on congressional earmarks. It's not as easy as it sounds. And we have a lot of interest in moving forward in significant transportation programs, water projects, et cetera. And our delegation will be united in trying to help you achieve a federal partnership on some of these important projects. So with that, Karen, why don't I pause to see if you have any questions, and I'll try to keep you on schedule. I know you have a session today, so I'd be glad to try to take some questions, and I see a hand there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Senator Cardin. Delegate Carol Krim had her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator, I thought I had heard everything in politics, but I've never heard of a vote-a-rama. So I have written that down, and I think I'm going to use that on crossover day. So thank you for that, and thank you for all your work. I know you're doing your best there to get us the funding that we need. I did ask Senator Van Hollen last week when he was here about the vaccines that are coming from the federal government to the partners like the pharmacies and et cetera. And have you expanded that, or are you still in CVS and Walgreens? Is that all the federal government is supplying, or has that been expanded in any way?
So first, let me explain vote-a-rama, because it really is a strange animal. It's the only thing like it in Congress. As you may or may not be aware, the Senate is a hard institution to get anything done unless you can get consent or 60 votes. The one exception is the budget resolution. The budget resolution has 50 hours of debate and unlimited amendments, and no germaneness rules. So you can offer an amendment on anything you want to offer an amendment to. So after the 50 hours, you get 1 minute of debate and then you vote. Now, let me tell you, in the Senate, a vote can take up to 30 minutes because we don't have electronic voting. We do everything by verbal. So when we started at 2:30 yesterday afternoon with the vote-a-rama, the 50 hours expired. We started taking up amendments, and it was about a half an hour a vote. We got down to about 10 minutes a vote. We actually had 45 recorded votes during that period of time until 5:30 in the morning. They dealt with everything with immigration laws to abortion to guns to the tax code. And we had to, now I want to tell you something, these amendments are not policy amendments. They're mostly intent amendments. So you're not bound by what happens, but it gets members on record on a lot of different issues. So it's something that is not terribly enjoyable to have to live through, but it is an experience I can tell my grandchildren. In regards to the vaccine, there was no plan under President Trump. He had absolutely no plan on the distribution of the vaccine. He basically said, drop it on the doorsteps of the state and it's their problem. And he didn't even give, this is a complicated issue, I'm not trying to over dramatize this, but he didn't even give the accurate numbers as to how many vaccines would be dropped on your doorsteps. And he didn't give any assurance that the next shipment would equal what the previous shipment was. So there was no consistency in how the drugs were being dropped off at the state. It made it much more difficult for the state to do its planning. It became the Wild West. Every state did it differently. And quite frankly, counties did it differently. So I can't tell you how many complaints I have gotten from constituents who said, gee, I called this line and I can't get through and I can't get an appointment. And I talked to my neighbor and my neighbor went to the next county and she got her shot. Or someone said, I have this affiliation with a hospital, so I got the vaccination. Person's not over 65, but so there was this lack of fairness in the way that it was being done. And it is very frustrating. Then you have the governor who's opening up different categories with far more demand than the supply, just adding to the frustration and having no unified system on how to decide how the drugs are going to be chosen, who can get it. You asked about the pharmacists. What the Biden administration has done is to try to build up a network so that we can get drugs administered fairly and quickly. So he is setting up a way in which there will be a lot more locations where the vaccines can be given out. And he's setting up standards for how that can be done. That's good, because a lot of neighborhoods, you're not going to be able to get access unless it's at your close by pharmacist or it's in your community. You don't have the transportation ability, or you just don't have the capacity to travel. So this is a good thing that they're suggesting. We need to do outreach also to communities, and we're providing help in that regard. But at this particular moment, with the demand outstretching the supply by large numbers, it's hard to see we have an orderly process until we have a distribution system that's understandable by our constituents, and there's a fair way to sign up and get your appointments. And that's been at the state level, not at the federal level. The federal level has given an inconsistent supply. I think you'll now know the supplies. The good news, as I think you know, the Johnson & Johnson is now will probably be out in the next 2 weeks. That's a 1-dose treatment rather than 2 doses, and only requires normal refrigeration. So that should allow us to speed up the process. We also have AstraZeneca that's coming on board. So we think it's going to get a lot better in the next couple of months.
Thank you. Delegate Cox has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for being here today. It's an honor to hear you, and I echo your concern about a unified vaccine plan for our state. I appreciate your work also on the U.S. Postal Service issue recently. I had a question, as you might know, you might not know, I have the privilege of serving with Delegate John Carden, and in that capacity, I have worked with him in supporting the freedom of the press. He's got a bill in my committee to work on that issue to ensure that there's a motion practice policy to protect the freedom of the press from frivolous lawsuits. And in that context, I had a concern nationally regarding the way that Section 230 has been used to shut down viewpoints rather than be narrowly targeted to allow the freedom of opinion. It's basically demonetized and completely excluded certain viewpoints that these platforms, for whatever reason, deem that we the people are not needing to have access to. And that's a real concern for the freedom of the press. I would support Senator Roger Wicker's bill and wonder if you would consider supporting that bill. It's called the Online Freedom and Viewpoint Diversity Act, to modify Section 230 to do a very narrow focus that allows the companies who take advantage, these social media companies and other tech giants who take advantage of our tax laws and our freedom, our tax exempt status, to narrow their ability to exclude opinions that they deem controversial, such as the Epoch Times. That's as an example. The Epoch Times is founded by Chinese dissidents, Chinese communist dissidents that have escaped, many of them anyway, escaped communist China. And they do a very rather excellent job of reporting internationally as well as domestically here in the United States. But they recently were demonetized by YouTube. They were banned from Facebook.
Delegate Cox, would you ask your question, please?
So that's what I'm getting at. I'm getting at, as an example, would you be in support of, and would you consider, Senator, supporting Senator Roger Wicker's bill, the Online Freedom and Viewpoint Diversity Act, so that we can maintain our freedoms of the press?
Well,
And thank you.
Roger Wicker is a dear friend. We're personal friends. He and I rotate chairman, ranking member of the Helsinki Commission. We are involved in a lot of human rights issues globally, including the freedom of the press globally. So we've worked on several issues together, including this issue. This is a very challenging issue. If you go back a couple decades when we had the broadcasters who had to give equal time, it was a challenge to get this implemented in a fair manner. It's not as easy as it sounds. And with technology changing the way it is today, it really does challenge us to figure out the responsibility of our, particularly our social media platforms. So we know that most Americans get their news through one of these platforms and not through the traditional delivered newspapers. We know that the news is now 24/7. So I really do think we have to figure out how we can preserve the free access to opinion in this country and the reliability of news networks and responsibility of news networks. Because we've seen also, as I'm sure you are aware, there's been significant comment about inciting violence in this country through our social media platforms. Europe has been much more aggressive in controlling that kind of conduct than we have. And quite frankly, we're not as restricted as most people think under the First Amendment, because inciting violence is not a protected speech. So I really do think this is an issue that cries out for us to come together to figure out what we're trying to achieve and to try to establish the technology growth that's taking place with meeting those goals. A free press and a diversified press is critically important to a democracy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Find it very interesting. We've now had 3 members of our congressional delegation visiting us, and you've all covered different areas, almost as if you coordinated. So I compliment you for that.
Well, we do, it is Team Maryland. We work very
Right.
closely together all the time. We haven't talked about broadband, for example, and David Trone took the leadership with the Federal Communication Commission on broadband. But we coordinate it. And on our committee assignments, we coordinate our work. So, I serve on the Finance Committee. Chris Van Hollen serves on the Appropriations Committee. I serve on Environment and Public Works. By the way, I'll be chair of the Infrastructure Subcommittee. So the infrastructure bills will be coming through the committee that I chair. So we'll have opportunity in our delegation, and we do work together as a team.
I just saw a big smile on Delegate Krim's face when you announced that. Any final questions or comments for Senator Cardin? I know he needs to get back.
Yeah, I won't take long, Senator, but I just wanted to bring to your attention about the Chesapeake Bay issues, and that's a multi-state issue. You know that. Mm-hmm. But we need Pennsylvania to step up and do their job on getting that phosphorus and nitrogen out of the bay. So we need to, and we're this next state down, so we need that help.
I talked to Mr. Regan, who is our nominee for EPA administrator, and I talked to him directly about this issue and talked to him directly about Pennsylvania, by the way. He's knowledgeable about the Chesapeake Bay. I believe I have a commitment from him that we will have a Chesapeake Bay czar at the EPA, which we used to have, and that will monitor not only the EPA programs, but interagency programs. And he recognizes that the federal government needs to be aggressive to make sure every state does its fair share based upon best science. And in Pennsylvania's case, I must tell you, we've been willing to advocate on behalf of Pennsylvania additional resources in order to deal with these issues. So it's not a resource issue. It really is a lack of will there. And I hate to say it that way, but they have not done what they need to do. And we're going to stay on top of Pennsylvania in that regard.
Thank you very much, Senator Cardin. We really appreciate you making some time to join us today. And before you go, I want to shout out to Robin Summerfield too. He is one of the most responsive staff people we have. He always gets back to us right away. Very helpful, very responsive.
Looks like a new look, though.
That.
I'm trying to see. He looks a little different than I've seen him in the past. So, yeah, it's a problem. I don't get to see each other in person that often. So when I get to see somebody on Zoom, and I got this new laptop, so it's much better and crisp. So I can really see your face there, Robin. So
that's the COVID look, Senator.
If you need a raise for a razor, let me know. I'll try to see if I can't get you some help.
Some of us have what I call COVID hair. Okay, thank you again.
Stay well, everybody. Good talk to you.
Likewise.
Right.
Okay, before we had our congressional representatives come on, we were talking about our local vaccine distribution plan. I don't believe County Executive Gardner is with us anymore, but Delegate Pepe, you had your hand up during the end of that conversation. Do you want to ask your question? Perhaps Joy Schaefer can answer it, and if not, hopefully she will get it answered and get back to you.
Sure, yeah, that works. Two issues have repeatedly come up, at least to my office. The first, I've gotten a lot of outreach from teachers, folks that, obviously they see that they're included in category 1B. They know that, they're to return to school, in the next several weeks. And a lot of them have, in their words, just been turned away from getting a vaccine. And I don't know if part of that's some local messaging or whatnot, but I'd be remiss if I didn't relay that to the county, because we're getting a lot of contacts in that respect. Another concern is some folks go to sign up on the site for an appointment, and very quickly it'll say none available. And so I know there's been some technological challenges there. And I do understand that there's no appointments left, and that's probably the auto response they get, but maybe just some guidance there. And then the last thing is kind of transpired in the last 12 hours where I understand there's been a local executive order relating to alcoholic beverages after 10 p.m. And I didn't know if this was in coordination with the liquor board. I would imagine, obviously the alcohol is regulated by a state agency in this county. And I didn't know if this was in coordination with the liquor board. I didn't know, obviously some establishments are going to have some confusion as to, they can stay open past 10, but they can't serve beverages to people that are, already seated at a table, and I think if you look at the article online and some of the comments, I think there's obviously some confusion there. So I don't know if you can relay that back, but those are the three most recent concerns that I've heard, dealing with the county. I understand everybody has a job to do, but I kind of like the sentiment of some of our federal partners is that, it's a team effort here in Frederick County, and we want to make sure that we're giving, clear guidance and we're working with people because it's a very challenging time. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if you wanted a response to that. I'll certainly relay those all to the county executive. I do want to, on the educator piece, the health department is following that state's guidance, which is to vaccinate 1A, those that are 75 and over in 1B, and at least 100 educators with our allocation. So our most recent allocation, where I believe we got 1,300 doses, 400 of those were set aside for educators, which are not just public school teachers, but the list is public school teachers, non-public and public, as well as daycare providers, licensed daycare providers, and community colleges and the colleges. In terms of the sign-in, we've asked the state has been troubleshooting a lot of these online issues with signing up for appointments. I think one of the biggest things we've faced is the link people get in order to sign up for an appointment is not supposed to be shared, but it is shared. So I think Baltimore County had to shut down an appointment site or a VAC site because the majority of people that came in with appointments weren't even qualified under the governor's release of 1A through 1C because a link had been shared by several people, and that got reshared again. So they're working on making sure those links are unique to the person or that can only be used once, I think is what they're trying to do. In terms of the order, I will let you know that the county executive does, before she gives an executive order, talks to all, many stakeholders, and did at this, with this order, talk to people in the restaurant industry. So, and it is only for a week, I believe, or two. Don't quote me on that. I read the order. I don't remember the time frame. But I do want to assure you that it is, she's talked to municipalities. She went and talked to several businesses and the restaurant industry. So, but I will relay all of those concerns that you have and questions to her and the feedback that you've gotten on the appointments, et cetera, for vaccines. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's good to hear about the teachers. I mean, if it's not too much trouble, maybe for the delegation, just give us an update on how we're doing with that going forward. And, we want to make sure they're in the mix. So thank you.
Thank you. I see Delegate Cox's hand is up.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
I've changed my view so that I can now see it in the participant column.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to real quickly thank Joy. I wanted to thank Dr. Brookmeyer. We had a constituent this week who could not, kept getting bumped off even though he was qualified to be signed up. And Dr. Brookmeyer got back with my chief of staff at 11 o'clock at night the other night with a dedicated link sign up. And I just really appreciate that kind of service. So if you could just tell her thank you for us.
You're welcome. That's our goal. That's the number one job we all have right now is vaccines in people's arms. I'll let her know.
Before we move on to the next person with their hand up, I want to reiterate that she is just incredible, Dr. Brookmeyer. No matter what day of the week or what time you email her, she responds immediately. And I know she's been working probably 15 hours a day for the past 12 months.
Yes.
Incredible. So please do doubly pass that on.
I will.
The next hand I saw was Senator Young.
Yes, thank you. Joy, one other thing to pass along because it's going to be coming up. And I know handling this situation with all the groups, I don't know how a juggler could handle it because there's so many balls in the air and to be dealt with. But some statistics we got recently statewide, and I don't know, I assume they're similar in Frederick County, but I don't know. 10% of the state are Hispanics, but only 4% of the vaccinations have gone out to Hispanics. And 30% of the general population statewide is African American, but only 15% of them have gotten vaccinations. So I know that's being looked at, and there's going to be word coming out to try to reach out to the minority communities. I know the percentages are different in Frederick County, but I would assume they're probably in some similar proportion. So it's just one more factor to throw into the many factors that are almost impossible to deal with right now, but should be passed along, and I'm sure more word will be coming down on it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Delegate Kren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This isn't something that everybody doesn't know already, but this is an extremely confusing thing for our constituents in getting a vaccine appointment. And Joy, I know this, I know the county executive knows this, I've talked to her, and this is not the county's fault, but we need to figure out more of a coordination between all these sources of vaccine. And every week there seems to be another source coming. So do we have any control as a county? We lost your Joy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost you the minute you started speaking.
Oh, okay. I was just
I'm back now.
Okay, I was just talking about all the sources of vaccine. And every week there seems to be a new source, and how confusing this is for constituents to try to figure out how to manage all of this. So I'm just putting it out there to see if you have any up-to-date response on that.
Yeah, so I think what you're talking about in terms of sources is providers that you can get the vaccine from. Yeah, we've communicated that. We're not the only county, by the way, that's communicated that. It's very confusing. And I see on Facebook posts of people with 5 computers up trying to get to an appointment on a number of these providers. So the state has committed to working with locals in order to integrate our systems more. We are integrated in Frederick County very well with the hospital. We work very in close partnership with them to make sure that our doses are covering the folks that need to be covered. What we need help with is looping in the private providers so we know how their systems are working and who they're providing vaccine to. And then the other will be integrating with the state system, because once they launch the state system's online appointment site for the mass vaccination sites, they'll be working on a different platform as well. So it would just help for all of these to be able to talk to each other so that people can maybe just register at one pre-registration. I don't know if that's going to be possible because there's just a lot of people using a lot of different systems. It might be, I don't have an answer to that, I'm sorry.
And hopefully
this is not a local problem, but for the population out there, they don't care who's
right.
They just want to figure it out.
Mhm.
I have a feeling when these mass vaccination sites open up, we're going to have people traveling all over the place trying to find a vaccine like they do in other states. I'm just not happy with the whole situation, but you know, we all know that. I don't think any of us are. Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully this is the topic for the Senate work group that meets weekly with Acting Secretary Schrader, getting these various sign up areas more coordinated.
Yeah.
So noted. Okay. In closing, and I want to give everyone one more opportunity to comment for the good of the order, but I do want to ask, do you want to stick with this earlier start time at 9 o'clock or go back to the 9:30? Anyone have a preference?
Well, I'm up, so it's fine with me.
9's fine by me. I don't.
Anyone have an objection? Okay, then next week we will start at 9. Also, I want to remind you all, since next week is our last planned meeting, if you have any topics for the agenda that we haven't covered so far, please get them to me. Now, not to say because it's our last planned meeting, we won't have another on an as-needed basis, but I want to keep it to an as-needed basis, because we're all getting much busier now. And as I said before, it's going to be on a need-to-know, not nice-to-know basis. So for the good of the order, does anyone have any closing thoughts or comments?
I'll start. Carol brought up a question we certainly will be discussing at our meetings. I also would like to know if they're opening these super sites and there is no more, there's no increase in vaccines, how many are they going to be taking away from us? We'll have less availability. And secondly, I think the health department should know how many come into the county and who hasn't. We don't have that coordination at all. So we're bringing up those issues and others, but it's like playing dodgeball. 2 weeks ago, we were told everything should go out and everybody should get their first shot. Then last week they said, hold back. And people are getting mixed messages and it's just confusing. And if it's confusing to us and to the health department, as others have said, you can imagine how confusing it is to the person out there trying to figure out how to get one. So we are pressing on those issues. And if you have any other questions you want to ask, let me know.
Delegate Pepe.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that Senator Young just said. And it is a little mind-boggling that we have no idea how many that are going through CVS and some of these other venues in our county, because that impacts the whole county numbers. So I mean, it's like, how do we know how we're doing if we have no idea? There's no coordination. I would actually support a letter from the delegation, inquiring about that and basically requiring that they provide some sort of report or something, because my inbox is starting to fill up with these vaccination issues, and I'd like to know how many are coming into this county in total. It's a little ridiculous that we can't get that information. So.
Okay, so noted. Anything else for the good of the order?
And I won't take long. I just want to provide this information for the public who's ever listening. The Speaker's office put out a package of bills yesterday regarding unemployment insurance. We continue to work on those issues in my office. I think we all do. I think I still have at least 50 outstanding issues, and we work on them all the time. So these bills that are coming out and are going to be filed soon will be addressing a lot of the issues that our constituents have been facing on the unemployment insurance issue. Thank you.
Thank you. One last call. for comments? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second? Senator Young, I'm assuming since you put your hand up, that was a second. Okay, you're muted. Okay, all in favor?
Yes, it was a second.
Everyone in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
See you next week at 9 a.m. Thank you very much.